From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, director and screenwriter George Gallo. With Gina Grad on news, Bryan on sound effects, and the gang goes over some of the last weekend's trending topics. And now, he works from early in the morning until late in the evening. He makes many phone calls and has many meetings. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get it on. Managed to get it on now. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing. We love that about you. Right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Bryan.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
I got a couple things I want to get into. First, an analogy. You guys can jump in on this one. I was talking to actor Justin Long a little earlier today on my podcast, Take a Knee, and on his podcast as well. And we were kind of talking about First Amendment stuff and what's going on, and Second Amendment stuff. I'm trying to think.
Guns or speech?
Speech.
There's many
sorry.
amendments.
Speech is first.
First Amendment stuff, and what's going on out there and Twitter and all people being deplatformed and what to do. Well, what's the idea? What's the plan? And I use this analogy, and I'd like you guys to help me drill down on it, which is the computer and the digital age has not given us much time to process a lot of these new things. And I said, in the past, everyone rode horses. And then at some point, some of the people got cars. Was it the Model T, the first one, or the Model A? It sounds like A should be first, but for some reason I think T's the first one.
Yeah. Model T.
Not according to Music Man. That lyric is, "It's the Model T Ford made the trouble made the people want to go, want to get up and go."
Yeah, I'm not gay, nor do I want to be gay.
Yeah.
So
that was a test, and we passed.
I don't know of which you speak, but am I allowed to continue, Gina?
A.
So the Model T came around, and a small percentage of Americans got themselves an automobile. And so then they had to kind of share the road with the horses. And at some point, as more Americans, very slowly got out of horses and wagons and into Model Ts and other cars, we had to start figuring that out. Like, well, I guess we have to pave some roads. And then there's going to need to be stoplights at intersections. We need a stoplight. And then I guess we'll need speed limits. Someone's going to have to enforce those speed limits. I guess police should enforce those speed limits. But that period took 50 years. We had a long time to work that all out. And with the internet and with social media and with the digital world we're living in, we don't have that time. And so we try to figure it out in real time, but we're kind of chasing it. And so I was saying, imagine if everyone went from horse and buggy to driving a Ferrari in 15 minutes. What would the rules be? And then how many arguments would we have over those rules?
Sure.
So someone would say, we need a stoplight. And someone would go, we don't need a stoplight. Why do we need a stoplight? And there'd be an argument over that. And we need police to enforce the speeds. And someone would go, this is America. We don't need the police. So we would...
Or anyone going over 60 miles an hour isn't allowed to have their car anymore.
Right. So we would have a big fat argument about it constantly because we didn't evolve into it. And almost everything else in our society, whether it be the automobile or airplane travel, think about how we had all this time to just evolve into it. All the rules, the regulations, and what works and what doesn't work and what's effective and ineffective. This is us completely chasing it. So no wonder nobody has a handle on what the plan should be or what's going to be effective. How would they?
Of course.
We're chasing it.
complicating the issue is, at least as it pertains to the internet, when that came around and became a thing very quickly, the people who were in charge of making laws, I'll just say they weren't of internet age and didn't comprehend what they were really doing. So you had people that were behind the curve quite significantly in terms of their age, their abilities, their demographics. Like the people that should have been making rules were probably the people who were making the internet. But unfortunately, the lawmakers were, generally older and male. And think about your grandpa trying to send a text. You know what I mean? Like it's just that you're playing catch up with someone who doesn't understand the game.
Yes. Although I argue that my grandmas would be shitty at text too, but I don't want to just limit it to males. But then you get into this thing, which is, but do we let the people that are starting the internet make the rules? Because now they're going to make the rules to favor them. And thus the debate, that's where the debate starts. So I was using that automotive analogy and all the safety that's in cars and who decided we needed seatbelts and who decided that we needed to pass a law that people had to wear seatbelts or pass a law that manufacturers needed to require seatbelts in every new automobile. I mean, just think what a long and drawn out process that was, along with, as Bryan said, younger people coming into the fold as the older senator aged out. The younger one came in who grew up around automobiles and now has a better chance of deciphering some of this stuff. But
Sean Thurmond was a senator when the internet came around. And he's making guys like making policy.
Also, when the Model T came around.
That's a good point.
Right.
He saw a lot in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see if that's true, or maybe the Model A will kick it back one. But Strom Thurmond.
I think the Model T was the first mass-produced with the assembly line and all that. There were cars before the Model T.
Yeah, but I picked that because people got it. The average person could get it, but still took a little while to for many families to get it. So if you wonder about all the discussions, debates, arguments we're having over the internet and what it should do and what Twitter should do and what all the tech companies should do, well, of course, we're going to have this argument. But I would argue the argument would be just as robust if we went to sports cars as fast as we went to the internet back in the day. All right, Gina, here's one for you. Yes, go ahead. Okay.
Well, I was just thinking, how sick are we of hearing like, oh, the internet's the wild, wild west. It's the wild west. Like, okay, we're sick of that cliche. But like, if you watch, Deadwood or Gunsmoke or the one you're into now that we never heard of. What was it?
Wagon
Train?
Wagon Train. Oh, yeah.
Wagon Train.
Wagon Tongue.
You see those shows and, it's all about like, we just set up this community in the middle of the desert. Like, what are the rules? And it is an apt analogy, even though we're sick of hearing it.
Yes, gone from Wagon Train to Wagon Fingers. Hit everyone we disagree with. All right. I don't know if I'm into it now. I just watched one. I haven't seen it in a million years. But, all right. So now the other subject is I think for the first time in my life in Naples, Florida, I got a mani-pedi.
Really?
Yes.
No, I'm more surprised about the first time in your life.
I think I popped my cherry for the mani-pedi in Naples, and a lot of people say, why? Well, one of the things is L.A. and certainly California are so shut down that when you go to a place like Florida that's so open, you think, what can I do here?
It's like Pleasure Island. It's like, sure, I'll smoke a cigar. Do I smoke cigars? No, but I'm going to do it here.
Right. That was my mindset. So I got a mani-pedi, and I got to say it was good. And not only was it good, I feel like it's something I'm going to do 3 or 4 times a year.
Now we're talking.
Wow.
Join me on Team Pedicure. It's the best. Oh, someone's rubbing your feet? How gay. No, it's fucking awesome.
Let me grab that. Also, Bryan, I'm sure you don't like this, but Adam, I bet you could handle when they get the sander out and really go to town on your heels and your toes.
I'm ticklish in the feet, so it made it a little bit weird and difficult. but I'm self-conscious too, so I didn't want to like struggle or giggle. Yeah, so there was a little bit of that. Also, I think the pedi is much better than the mani. The
Agreed.
soaking of the feet and all the work that's going on down there. Also, I have nice toes. I have nice toenails, but there's things that can be removed
Of course.
down there that
Always improve.
tend to build up. So the mani-pedi is pretty damn awesome. I
It's a
think
great day.
I might just go for the pedi every once in a
Now
while.
you're talking about Bryan talk.
And you do the calf massage, which is nice. You get the calf massage.
They do the calf massage that you soak in that hot water. You pull it on there. I still feel a little self-conscious about people working on my feet. It feels symbolic to me, you know.
Yeah, but you're very rich.
Yeah, I know they should
So
be.
it fits.
But it's like you grovel. You know, it's like they're groveling for 20 minutes or something. So it feels it feels a little weird. Strom Thurmond, born in 1902, Model T introduced in '08. So he was born when it was introduced. I enjoy I enjoyed it immensely. I'm trying to think of what. Again, I like the pedi much more than the mani. I couldn't. The mani was fine, but I think I might just go in for the pedi. Is that what you do, Bryan?
Yeah, I got a manicure out. You know what? I last got a manicure when I was really sick, like '09, and I literally didn't have the strength to clip my own nails, and I kind of gave in. It was nice, but I haven't done it since. The pedicure, that's a 2-3 times a year treat. That pedicure is rad.
When you did the mani-pedi, was it simultaneous or did you move from one station to the other?
No, it was the dip your fingers in the solution.
That's the way to go. You sit in your chair, you're getting worked on both ways. You put your feet up, you put your hands out. Is that what you did, Adam?
No, I got the separate station move, but the chair, it was a special pedi chair. We had like the massager worked into it and was like reclining, and the feet were just in the hot sudsy water. And it is.
What telenovela did they have on?
Well, these were probably Korean folks.
Oh.
So they weren't watching that. Again, it was at a big mall, outdoor mall, but it's so weird just to walk the length of the mall and see people eating outdoors and eating indoors and eating brunch, and you're getting your pedi done in the gym. There was a gym that was open. There were multiple restaurants that were open. There were people inside watching football games and drinking beers, and outside eating brunch and inside. It's interesting it's interesting that when something gets taken away, how much you appreciate it. And also
notice it.
I was about to say notice. You just notice it. Yeah, you completely. Like you walk around, look at these people.
People
outside.
are gathered watching a sporting event.
Yeah. What year is this?
Yeah. And also
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, to contrast that, yesterday I went to pick up a book at a certain bookstore on Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. And I didn't even know if you were allowed to go in. So I went in and I just, I knew what section I was going to. So I went, ma'am, come back. That's the exit aisle. You have to go around and it's one way.
Oh, there was a path.
Yep. With little arrows on the floor, and I'm getting yelled at, and I'm just trying to grab a book and get out.
People were pretty universally wearing a mask at walking around Naples, Florida, I noticed. They weren't wearing them inside the club when I was doing the shows, but I don't know. Again, how are you going to just eat a whole bunch of nachos and drink a bunch of beer inside a club? But I do not. I'm looking at Max Pat. I don't think there's a human wearing a mask who didn't work
all
there.
Eating and drinking.
They're all eating and drinking.
Yeah.
So that was about as super spreader an environment as you're going to find, I would say.
Bow Wow has some competition.
Bow Wow's got some, not Lil, right? Just Bow Wow's got some competition. Yes.
Did you do any sort of meet and greet?
No, I must say it is catered to my lazier angels, which is we've decided that I should just sit in the green room after the show and Mike will bring me piles of books that people have purchased, and then I will just sign those books and send them back with Mike. And, hygienically, probably didn't make much difference because I was just in the club for 2 hours doing a show with everybody. But you can kind of get used to walking back and sitting down and relaxing a little in between shows. And some of the meet and greets in the past, they could go on for a while. And that little window where you're supposed to sit down and maybe eat something, especially since I left L.A. I got to the airport at 5 in the morning and now it's 9:30 at night in Naples, Florida. Yeah, you kind of get used to sitting back there a little bit and watching a little college football and, just chillaxing in between shows. So we did that. I think we sold all the books.
Yeah. Yeah. So when Adam's in the back, I'm doing the merch and I'm getting all the messages I need to relay to Adam.
Chris is exposed to every person of the goddamn club.
Yes. But it does, this whole COVID thing is so fascinating because you hear people talk and they go, yeah, 2 people in my house got it. And they followed the rules, but there's still 2 people got it. Or we all know people, Dr. Drew, his son, like they all got it. Is it possible, Max Zapata, that literally for the last almost year, we've been traversing the United States on airplanes, in restaurants, in crowded clubs, essentially doing everything they told you not to do? Is it possible that you, me, and Mike have got nothing?
I can't believe it. It really makes 0 sense to me. Especially when we were just sitting in the club, I looked around like, all right, this is how I go down. This is how
Well, I have a question for Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, your fiance is the nurse. Does she put you on any kind of protocol? Extra zinc, extra vitamin D, or whatever. Does she have some home remedies?
I mean, she just makes sure I'm responsible, masking up and all that. And so I'm a little bummed that Adam just put it out there that there are no masks in this club because it might go against the story I give her.
Everyone's doubled up.
But for the most part, she just got the vaccine too. I would say she's at more risk than I am because she has to deal with COVID patients and she's always treating them at the hospital. So, yeah, it's weird that neither of us have caught it yet. And I mean, knock on wood.
But
or is it possible you did and you cycled through and you didn't notice?
Very true. That's possible too. I mean,
Yeah.
I did get sick in December. I remember that happening, but it wasn't insane. And I mean, I've been tested a few times and it's been negative. So
because, man, you can look it up. I don't even know all the places we've been, but we've only been to places that are open. So if we're going with the sort of prevailing logic, we come from a place that is closed down and you can't perform in a place that's closed down. So you go to places that are open. And the prevailing wisdom that we've all heard over the last 10 months is that lock it down, slow the spread, stay indoors, shut the restaurants, shut the schools. Well, we have been going just to places that are open and engaging in the behaviors they tell you not to engage in. We go play a club, which is as bad as, if you talk to anyone from the CDC, they'd probably tell you here's where you don't want to be in terms of spreading the disease or contracting it, would be inside the club. In order to get back and forth, it's a series of Uber rides and a series of plane flights and airports back and forth. And then there's the hotel. We don't go to the hotel and don't go on the flight and don't go to the club. And then when we're done with all that, we end up at a restaurant indoors eating. And then in between, it's mani-pedis, haircuts, and massages for me. So there is all the behavior that we're not supposed to engage in here in California. We have lived it. Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Nashville, Tempe, Salt Lake City, West Palm Beach, and now Naples. So is it physically possible that the three of us didn't get this when everybody we know, or so many people we know, contracted it at home or doing, following the protocols.
As it pertains to all of that, I was having this conversation with my in-laws just this weekend about, so what are we, 11 months into this, something like that, 10, 11 months into this, the lockdown, and nationwide or even worldwide, it seems like the only thing we can really get a consensus on is masks. And even that, you have plenty of people who are like, they don't do shit, blah, blah, blah. But that's really the only consensus amongst the experts. Lock it down, don't lock it down. You have some states that allow indoor dining, some states that don't, some states that only allow takeaway, some states only allow outdoor dining. Like there's so many variations, and it's not consistent because one day you'll hear LA cases are spiking. Next day you'll hear South Dakota cases are spiking. Next day you'll hear Arizona cases are spiking. Regardless of what the protocol is, and it's very inconsistent, cases are going to spike. You know what I mean? Like we don't see any, we haven't seen any pro or con protocol work consistently. You know what I mean? Every day someplace new is spiking regardless of what they're doing.
Well, it's now starting to trickle out even the opposite, which is the lockdowns may be worse than no lockdowns because you take everyone and you segregate them and you create, I heard a guy, Alex Berenson, describing as you dry out all the kindling and now it's time to come out into society. And now you have a bunch of people that are being exposed who weren't being exposed. It doesn't even, it seems like the lockdowns don't even seem like a coin toss. They feel like they're certainly maybe making things worse than, and a lot of that data is starting to come down. Anyway, if it is.
My point was like you'll see like South Dakota is spiking and they didn't do any lockdowns, they didn't do anything. But then you'll see LA is spiking and we're the most locked down of anyone. So it's so incredibly inconsistent.
I agree.
The results.
I totally agree. And so with that in mind, we should reopen. And I have no idea what the timeline is for outdoor dining or schools or anything, but it'd be nice, especially the schools, because there's just nothing with the schools. There's just nothing with young kids going on. All right, we'll do some trending topics. Max Pata's pulled those out. First, let me hit True Underdog. New podcast by four-time Entrepreneur of the Year, Jason Waller. It's real. It's raw, it's motivational, inspiring stories and killer entrepreneurship advice. Jason is the definition of a true underdog. Raised in a trailer park, suffered childhood abuse, kicked out of high school, and became a dad in his teens. Found the power within. Used his street smarts to start 3 companies from the ground up. His latest venture, Power Home Solar, is on the path to becoming a billion-dollar enterprise. Head to True Underdog Podcast. Hear how Jason and high-profile guests turn their lives around. Subscribe to True Underdog Podcast at Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. It is True Underdog, the podcast. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back with some trending topics right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Ace Man, Bald, Gina, Tim, 41, Maryland, calling to talk about the great cookie debate from last week. Back in 1991, a movie came out called City Slickers, and there was a character on there called Cookie who did, guess what? Cook the food. I kind of put it together as a 12-year-old, and I've known ever since, so I stand with Bald. Later.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Well, there is another American that knows what Bald Bryan seemed to have known before birth. That Cookie is a nickname for
the
Cook.
thing that drove the nail home, because people, tweeted me like, "Oh, it's in this. Oh, it's in this." It was the Pace Picante commercial. Remember, where like, "Get a rope." They call him Cookie. Is this a good salsa? Is this from blah blah blah? And he's like, "No, it's from a jar." And then blah blah blah.
But I want to reiterate that Adam and I both had people in our families who called us Cookie. I'm assuming you did not, Bryan.
I didn't cook.
Oh, Cookie, that's a term of endearment.
Well, also, the problem with the cookie example from the Pace Picante ad is that I always thought if you made a movie and you had an old timer, or you did a TV commercial and you had an old timer working the chuck wagon Well, wait a minute. Does Chuck mean something? Like Chuck, Chuck roast? Oh, shit.
Chuck.
What else am I missing? My point is you would just call him Cookie, but not necessarily still connected to cooking. That was just a ubiquitous, like you called your big black cellmate Bubba when you were doing one of these commercials or one of these TV shows. All right. We have some trending topics.
Yeah.
This is stuff that's going on. Max Zapata collects these. We do not discuss in advance, so you'll get my unvarnished take on these subjects.
Well, as I was looking for trending topics over the weekend, one was happening at the moment, and it was one word. It's trending number 2 in the world. The word was Dolly, because Gina, as I'm sure she knows, today's Dolly Parton's 75th birthday.
Happy birthday, Dolly Parton.
And I was thinking, because that is who Gina, quote, stands the most. And so I was wondering, Bryan...
Her chin turned 25.
Bryan and Adam, I'd love to know who you guys stand. Like, who are you guys super
Obsessed
fans
with.
of? Preferably alive, because we all know you made a Paul Newman documentary, Adam. But, and the stand is obviously from the Eminem song Stan.
Congratulations, Gina, getting on the Dolly train early and often, because there were a lot of lean years in there, I believe, where she was a caricature and kind of the butt of a lot of jokes and stuff, and now she's beloved. Beloved. It's also very, it's an interesting and slightly unique glimpse into the psyche of the nation, because why didn't we appreciate her 20 years ago? And why is it that she was kind of the butt of a joke and no one thought much of it? And if you liked Dolly Parton, you were kind of country and square and whatever, kind of hokey. And now we're there. Now, what is that? Like, why did we change our mind? As I don't feel like Dolly Parton changed.
No, far from it. I think that, I know that this was happening before that, but when people found out that she had donated $1 million and that $1 million helped come up with a COVID vaccine, people lost their minds. But before that, I don't know. I think she has a good publicist. I think she has Kale's publicist.
I think that it's deeper. I think that we're all such lemmings that when we hear somebody, especially some tastemaker or trendsetter or something, go, "Oh, I love Dolly Parton," then we all go, "Oh, we love Dolly Parton too," because now there was no reason to dislike Dolly Parton in the first place. We just joined that group of people that made fun of Dolly Parton because we didn't want to be singled out in the town square. And now that the prevailing wisdom is shifted and now everyone's a Dolly Parton fan, we don't want to be left out in the town square for that either.
I think you're right. Also, on Teresa and my podcast a long time ago, we did the series about her. They did like a 8-part Dolly Parton series. Easy listening, Gina Grad, Teresa Strasser. And there is something in there where she says something unflattering to the Jews. And yet nobody's ever picked up on that. I certainly have forgiven her. But let me just put it this way. Dolly ain't getting canceled. She's the one.
Well, when you own several roller coasters, you can't really be canceled. You know what I mean?
I think that's a good point.
People always say have your own platform or have your own podcast or publish your own book. But I would say own your own roller coasters. People love roller coasters. They're always going to pay. No one wants to know the politics of who built Colossus or the Widowmaker. They just want to rush. And you're always going to be able to hammer checks. Yes, Brian?
The question is just popped in my mind. If you're embraced by and large by the gay community, are you cancel proof? I mean, I'm open to examples that disprove this thought, but I can't think of one.
Let me shit on your point in a massive way. I think that my first thought was that is a fantastic point. On the other hand, RuPaul himself, depending on where he is and what he's doing, got dragged through fire for using the word tranny while that was still acceptable and having that on Drag Race, on episodes of Drag Race. And I mean, as close to canceled as you can get, people were
without being
slandering.
Canceled.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the show still airs. So I guess you're right. But even RuPaul isn't bulletproof to these kinds of things.
Well, let me pile some fecal matter on your poop, Gina Grad. Martina Navratilova
Oh yeah, right.
got the shit kicked out of her as an icon in the gay and lesbian community for
Right.
saying that basically men or women who were born as men shouldn't be competing with women in women's sports. So she got the shit kicked out of her too. And I don't know a bigger international gay icon than Martina for all the years. I mean, she came out so early.
Sure.
All
It
right.
wasn't cool.
On that subject, I would say the minor league baseball player who threw the potato over the third baseman's head.
You stan him.
That guy's always been a personal hero
Yeah.
of mine because that guy, you know, you don't just buy a baseball uniform and it comes with a potato.
Yeah,
Right.
that you got to bring your.
You
own
got to bring
potato.
your own potato. You have to pick the right
BYOP.
color potato and the right
What size, shape?
Yeah.
potato.
Maybe take a couple practice throws before the game.
Yeah.
Who knows how many games he played where a guy wasn't on third base with the potato in his back pocket?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? He
You
could have
think that was
gone.
the first time, Adam? Come on.
That's the whole point. I mean, there's guys that hit doubles, there's home runs, there's guys getting walked. There's not always guys just standing on third base. You know, who knows? So he may have had to go out there with that potato digging a hole in his right butt cheek
Yeah.
down in the catcher's position all that time. He must have done it in like 1985 or 4 or something. And Gina, if you don't know the story, he had a guy on third base. I think he was a minor league guy. I think he got thrown out of. He also got fired from his job as
He's a martyr.
as a martyr. He was a catcher. The pitcher made the pitch. He caught the pitch. There was a guy on third base leading off. He stood up and fired what appeared to be the baseball well over the third baseman's head. Of course, the runner then just trotted home, seeing
Sure.
what appeared to be the baseball go skidding into left field. And when he got to home plate, he tagged him with the actual ball. The guy's, although you think if I was such a fan, I would know his first name at
Indeed.
least.
Yeah.
But that guy's been carved into my psyche. What year was that?
It was his name was his name is Dave Bresnahan.
Oh.
It was 87,
87.
and
Wait a second.
he now works in real estate.
Oh, we can get
But
him.
you knew that already.
Wait a second. His name's Dave Bresnahan, and I got trouble for not remembering Bobby Barasini.
Yeah,
And
Dave
this is the guy you stand the most?
Yeah, I stand. And by the way, ending up in real estate is just where you end up. Like when porn stars can't get paid to fuck anymore, they end up in real estate. Like everyone just, and no one ever really knows what it means. Do you sell one shitty condo in Van Nuys a year, or
Right.
do you sell, multi-million-dollar Miami beachfront estates? But,
Actually, at the very next day, the Indians released him because of that stunt, and his playing career is over. Never played professionally again.
had a chance to go to the show. He gave it all up.
It's a Crash Davis moment.
For a russet.
Now, did that guy know he was, his days weren't long for...
I think he was hanging on to the end of the roster. I don't think they would have cut their number 1 draft pick if he had done that.
still started.
Also the potato, he peeled it and carved it to the likeness of a baseball.
Oh, man.
See, this is a winner.
I like
This is
him
like a
even
classic
more.
quit story. Like,
Yes.
this is the leader in the clubhouse of quitting stories.
They never talk about the left fielder who went and shagged the potato and had to be like, what?
What the?
Yeah. There's footage of it, I think, Max Zapata. You can probably find it. But that's my stand. Brian, you got a stand?
I have
Stan.
stand. Well, Stan is the word. S-T-A-N.
Oh,
Like
Stan.
Stanley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's not
because the name
Stan.
of the guy and the super fan in the song.
Oh,
his
that's
name is
Stan. Oh, I thought it
Yeah.
was like stand with them or something.
It's
Stan.
No,
Yeah,
but
Stan.
past tense. I have stanned many people over the years. Your Dana Carveys, Noel Gallagher. The people could do no wrong in my heart. But of course, the ultimate stan is Michael Bean.
Oh, wow.
Of course.
Gettable.
Yeah.
Could do no wrong. Could do no
Son
wrong.
works here.
Need to see more of him in my life.
We were
I
lucky
agree.
enough to have him as a guest when we were filling in for you, Adam, and Bryan was agog for an hour and a half.
He was almost my dad that day.
That's right. He almost got adopted.
Just on a sidebar sports thing, I was watching the second installment of the Tiger Woods doc.
Me too.
And it was on, we were talking about building people up and knocking them down. And we were talking about Dolly Parton and how much we love that. You watch that doc, I mean, Tiger Woods got built up higher than anyone could ever get built up. Then he got knocked down lower than anyone could ever get knocked down. And then he went right back up again at the end. And if you don't think that's how we are as a society, look no further than Tiger Woods. I mean,
Yeah, but he's white and he had it. Oh, hold on.
he plays, first things first, he plays golf. You know, we don't need golfers in our society. You know,
Agreed.
we,
It's kind of true.
all our presidents seem to golf a lot, but we don't really need golfers. You know, we need surgeons and airplane pilots and senators and things like that and school teachers. But so it's a sport that's really almost neither here nor there, but we decided that this guy was so great and so competitive that he was the best. Then after that, it was another subject that's kind of neither here nor there, which is banging chicks in Vegas, essentially. That's really
And
got...
Perkins.
What's that?
And Perkins.
Ann Perkins.
And Perkins, the Perkins waitress.
Oh, sorry, Ann Perkins. Perkins is not a chain out here, so I
know
Oh,
don't...
yeah.
what that is.
We grew up with Perkins. I think it's Midwestern and Southern.
And maybe I'm having troubles with my N's and my D's this morning, but I thought you said Ann Perkins.
Oh,
I was
that
like,
makes sense.
which one of his whores was Ann Perkins? And
I know her.
who's Stand? My D's and my N's I'm losing it. Maybe I got the COVID.
No?
Yeah.
So yes, he turns out that he likes to have sex outside of his marriage, and for some reason that's our business, and that's super important. And we now decide that he must be destroyed based on that. Also, if you were watching that doc, how creepy was the National Enquirer reporter, that like middle-aged dude who was saying things with glee
Yes,
about,
the wise old owl glasses from the Tootsie Pop commercial.
It's like, we followed him into the parking lot. We even retrieved one of her spent tampons. And it's like,
that's
ugh. And the thought that was going through my head, and we're working on getting the director of the Tiger doc on
Awesome.
this week for a recap. But you know what I thought about that guy who was this, you know, looked like an affable looking kind of harmless guy bragging about what the National Enquirer would do, you know, follow people and go through their trash and then take them and threaten them and humiliate them and all this.
And try and make it a kill story or whatever they call it.
Catch and
Kind of a
kill.
blackmail.
Yeah.
Catch and kill.
Yeah, you will kill this story if you appear on Men's Fitness, another one of our publications, like really dicey, douchey stuff. And the fact that he would be on camera saying it with glee and a certain amount of pride. You know, my thought was, who produces this child? Because we all get the serial killer thing, where it's like his stepdad ritualistically abused him and sexually abused him. Like, we all get we've ruined this kid. And this kid becomes a degenerate, and this kid becomes an alcoholic, and this kid becomes a killer, or whatever it is. And then we get kind of the positive version where it's like the parents were sweet and they were supportive and they were kind and they taught him the difference between right and wrong. How do we produce all of these people who are gainfully employed, who pay their taxes, who may be good Americans and even good neighbors, but choose to go down this road? You know what I mean? Like this super dicey lawyer, you know, who's willing to lie about anything. Well, I should ask Garagos. But
If only we knew someone.
what creates this? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get there? Like, I would, if Sonny turned out like that guy would never stop throwing up, I would just be like, Jesus Christ, what have you learned from living with me for 20 years? Like, what the fuck? Where do we get that? How do you instill that? Or
That's
do
a
you?
really, really good question. And I kept turning to Andy, and every time that guy came on and would say something, I'd turn to Andy and go, who cares? Like, who gives a shit? Who can get it up for this story? Who cares? And I think to answer your question, two things come to mind. When kids are kids, they have unbelievable delight in telling. I'm telling. This guy never got that punished out of his system. He got rewarded for telling, I imagine. And it's like you've said, I think there's an element of the dad saying, you got to screw this guy before he screws you. I think the combination of that gives you a guy like this.
Max Patta, write this down, a new podcast called Parents of Publicists. What the fuck happened? What did you do?
Go wrong?
What'd you do to create the worst people on the most entitled fuck sticks on the planet? What did you guys do to them? Because again, they grew up with, intact families. They're educated, presumably normal families. They're, again, they're not outlier people. How did they get this way? The other person I'm curious about is watching the Tiger doc. The people that are in the gallery, and when Tiger lines up for the 26-foot putt, and as soon as he putts the ball, as soon as he strikes the ball gets 2 feet away from the putter, starts rolling toward the get in the hole! Get in the hole!
Everyone knows get in the hole guy.
My feeling is if I went to go watch the Masters and I was standing next to a friend of mine who was screaming, get in the hole, every time someone putted the ball, I would go, you got to stand on the other side of the rope on the other. I don't want to stand next to you yelling, get in the hole. And by the way, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't get in the hole on a 30-foot putt. So your batting average is horrible.
Doesn't make ESPN highlights when that happens, though. Only when it goes in. You look at a genius.
Get in the hole. All right. What do we got?
Here's another topic that was trending over the weekend.
Now, if that dude was in the gallery of a porn movie.
Yeah, of a gangbang.
Yeah.
Or maybe he works on the set and he holds the boom mic and he just yells, get in the hole every time the guy
calls
comes
it again, Mitch.
All right. Sorry. Trending topics.
Another thing that Adam Stands was trending over the weekend. 3 words, master and commander. Very weird that it was trending because this movie is from 2003. But what happened was a young man named Ian tweeted, lots of folks complaining about lack of sleep during the pandemic. I recommend Master and Commander starring the usually captivating, attention-grabbing Russell Crowe. And then he tags Russell Crowe. So Russell saw it. And he responds, that's the problem with kids these days. No focus. Peter Weir's film is brilliant. An exacting, detail-oriented, epic tale of fidelity to the empire and service, regardless of the cost. Incredible cinematography by Russell Boyd and a majestic soundtrack. Definitely an adult's movie.
That was a nice response.
Yeah,
too.
so it
could have been really mean to him.
Tempered. Yeah.
I love this movie, and just to bring it full circle, I love the shit out of this movie, and I really appreciate this movie, and for many different ways, because it's very nuanced, this movie, and it shows the kind of life aboard a ship back then, and it also makes you realize there's like 12, 13-year-old kids on that ship, too. Like, holy shit, this is the way people used to live back then. But I did, after many months of discussing it, sit down with my son in my newly constructed movie theater, and I said, now we're going to watch Master and Commander, one of my all-time favorites. And we sat down. We got about 26 minutes in, and my son just looked at me and he goes, I'm bored off my ass. Can I go upstairs? And I'm like, wow. So this is exactly what Russell is talking about.
Yeah. Josh Gad also responded, a perfect movie. Peter Ramsey, director of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That guy's a fucking idiot, Russell. Peter Weir is a god. The movie's amazing. You're amazing in it. Thank you. Okay. So this is one of the first times the person said, kids these days, old man yelling at cloud, whatever, and everyone supported him. Everybody is on board with Russell Crowe on Twitter, saying this kid has no idea what he's talking about.
Maybe we're just trying to reward Russell for not throwing a phone at someone.
That's right. You got to reward him for good behavior. Adam, I just saw this for the first time about a year ago. After many times you brought it up how much you love the movie. I'm like, this is a Best Picture nominee. I should probably see this movie. Really good movie. I liked it a lot. I didn't like it as much as you did. I still liked it quite a bit. It's a little long at an hour or 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it's a very good movie.
Yeah, it was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, Jesus. Only won Best Cinematography and Best Sound Editing. All the other categories it lost to the final Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh.
Well, I love movies at sea. So if you catch, I'm in that genre where anything at sea, World War II, any war thing at sea, I'm already kind of half in.
And the battle scenes are exhilarating. They're really well done.
And it was very like, oh, you got how they did things back then, like finding out how deep the water was and what the sand under the boat was made of, consisted of, and the speed, how you picked up the speed and all the kind of weird little inside techniques of what they did back then. I found it all fascinating, but Sonny, not so much.
Kids these days.
We got another one?
Yeah, we'll do one more here. This one went viral over the weekend. It was in Salem, Oregon at a Trader Joe's. There was a group outside the Trader Joe's claiming they're just there to peacefully shop / demonstrate.
Peacefully shop?
Well, they weren't wearing masks.
Don't trust a group that says they're there to peacefully shop.
Well, you'll hear it because this is actually taken oddly from the perspective of one of the women who wasn't wearing a mask trying to get in. She had a cell phone video, and the manager comes up to her and is trying to talk to her and see if they could come to some sort of resolution. Here's the first
hero.
2 minutes of the 8-minute video that everybody's praising this manager for.
Did not see that.
How's it going, guys?
Good, how are you?
Good. Having a good day?
Yeah, how about you?
Good. I know why you guys are here. I know you guys.
We're here to shop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
Peacefully shop.
Totally
Just,
fine. I have
household groceries.
no problem with you guys want to shop. No problem with you guys just want to grab your groceries. Just have a good conversation.
We
told
with your
everyone
Oh,
to
good.
maintain their distance, be polite and respectful, and respect other people's rights, because we don't want special treatment. We just want to be honored as shoppers.
Oh, good.
No, I hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand all that, truly.
Thank you.
And like I was telling your friends over there, I don't want to tell you guys what to think, what to do, what to believe, anything like that.
We honor that.
I would ask kindly that you guys understand here at TJ's and what we're doing, we're just trying to work, make a living.
Hey, I get it.
The difference
Absolutely.
you guys are trying to make isn't going to be made with us.
We're
It
just shopping.
with your government.
Well, no. We're
No, I
just
understand
shopping.
that. I'm not talking about the shopping. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about
That
what
is
you guys.
true. You're right.
Totally understand that.
We're
We
trying
just
to do
have.
that.
I am not here to debate policy, or I totally
Exactly.
respect your freedom to think whatever you guys want to think.
Okay.
By all means, truly, I
Great.
believe that.
We're demonstrating to that.
And you have
guys
every
are-
Actually,
right.
we're not demonstrating. We're buying groceries.
I like when they
That's
correct
why
each
I'm
other.
here.
All I'm saying is my responsibility as a manager of the store
Yeah.
is to enforce a mandate, whether you guys believe in that
But
mandate or
it's
law.
not a law.
No, I
You
understand.
can't enforce non-law.
Where is this?
No, you can't.
Oregon, Salem, Oregon.
You cannot deny somebody
all right,
the
you can
right to
pause
commerce.
it. How closed down is Oregon these days?
It's really similar to California, and they are still. Of course, they're requiring masks for anything as well. It's as the video goes on, there 2 women with masks walk in, and then they run up there and they kind of block her at the door, and then all the people without the mask, they kind of block the entrance, saying if we can't go in, nobody else can come in, and it was really odd. I thought that manager showed a lot of patience, and
He did.
Oh, restraint.
yeah.
I love Trader Joe's. So here's both sides, in my opinion. One is you wear a mask because you're required to wear a mask, and you put the mask on if you want to get, a whole bunch of good cheese at bargain basement prices and wine as well. I'm down with that. On the other hand, if you have a very restricted, locked down society, you will give birth to more of this. I feel like the overreach of the government and the oppression of not having, for instance, outdoor dining and things of that nature, schools closed, or the overreach of the government and the overreach and the over implementation of the government regulations and rules is going to cause an uprising by a certain percentage of society that is going to push back, and it's going to come out in this form, which is a stupid form, going to Trader Joe's. I'd be interested. I know they have this everywhere, this sort of person that doesn't want to wear the mask inside the Costco or whatever it is. But I would venture to say that the more locked down your society is for the longer period of time, the more groups of these kinds of people it's going to create. That's
Agreed.
my take. And so even though these people are idiots, it's still born from having an overly over-intrusive government that has locked down and oppressed its people. Now, California, we're all such fucking pussies and no one really does anything here. Yeah. And you know, the thing that's interesting is they probably would. The people who live in Orange County, California, probably would, except for they're not locked down.
Right.
It's weird when you talk to people. Whenever I talk to Mike August, like, we're going out for froyo, or we're going over to here, we're going out to dinner. It's like, no, not locked down. So that guy's a winner.
Yeah.
But, and it's always, I think wearing a Hawaiian shirt may mellow you out.
Very calming on the entire milieu.
That's right. You feel like you're on vacation.
Well, they talk, like when they'll say, in schools that have school uniforms, there's less fights. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because the people sort of act that way. So if you said, I'm going to open a supermarket and everyone has to wear a Viking helmet.
Dressed like a Visigoth.
I bet you'd have a different approach. Like, management would be a little different. Now, maybe it would attract a certain ilk. I don't know.
Real quick, did you guys notice? That's why I pointed at the screen when it happened. I didn't notice it the first time I watched it. But as this poor guy is trying to, deal with this, behind him, one of the, I don't know if he's security or manager, pushes a guy on a Rascal scooter in like a really funny way, kind of like making fun of what's going on. It was funny. But also, what you're saying, overarching, I totally agree with. But I think it everybody on Twitter had something to say about this. And you're freedom of commerce. But what people forget is, if you don't want to wear a mask, you can be accommodated. You can do curbside pickup. There are ways to accommodate people who can't or don't want to wear a mask. So just because it's not happening in your way, doesn't mean that you won't be accommodated.
Agreed. But obviously they're there to make a statement.
Right.
And I agree with the statement in that the fucking government is hugely overreaching on this. But
why take it out on Trader Joe's? Why take it out on that store?
But why take it out on a liquor store or Pier 1 Imports? Like, why take it out on? It always gets taken out on some poor business that's just there. Right. Once people start pushing back or fighting for equality or whatever, it's never the senator's house that gets burnt down. It's always the ma and pa liquor store that's in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Does this person fall into the category, Adam? It does for me, of the, dude or person you can't hang out with. Person is like, hey, we're just here to shop. It's like Gina's example of the kid that loves to tell. Like, the kid on the schoolyard is like, my finger, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not, their fingers an inch away from your face. I'm not touching you. It's like, you fucking unctuous little shit. I know what you're doing. I don't like it. Get the fuck out of here.
No, if you're there to protest, I'll respect that. Just say what you're there for.
Yes, exactly. The one guy's like, we're here to demonstrate. It's like, no, we're not. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah, they need to get on the same page. All right, let me hit Geico, and then we'll talk to George Gallo. Do you rent your home? Sure, you do one of those things, right? Yeah. And you want to save some money, so why not bundle with Geico? Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you got so much to do already. Just go to geico.com, get a quote, see just how much you could save. It's easy. It's Geico easy. Go to geico.com today and find out how much you could save when you bundle at geico.com. All right. We'll talk to director, writer, producer, painter, musician. I'm looking at George's credits. One of his writing credits is Midnight Run, one of my favorite adventure buddy comedies.
I stand Midnight Run.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk
I was your accountant.
To George Gallo about his new movie right after this.
Adam Carolla's I'm Your Emotional Support Animal, navigating our all-woke, no-joke culture, has over 1,000 5-star reviews on Amazon. Here's one.
Carolla always put out top-notch production, and this is certainly no exception. Definitely recommended read.
Thanks, Ozzy. Pick up I'm Your Emotional Support Animal now. Available in all formats. For more, go to adamcarolla.com.
Well, writer, director, producer, painter, musician, raconteur. I just added that one. George Gallo is joining us. The Comeback Trail is the name of the movie. It's coming soon. The release got pushed back into somewhere in 2021 due to COVID. It's got De Niro's in it, Tommy Lee Jones, Morgan Freeman, Emile Hirsch, and a lot of recognizable and big-name stars. Good to see you, George.
Good to see you, Adam.
So what's the process of making a movie like this? And is it always what we suspect, that once you get Robert De Niro, it's easier to get Tommy Lee Jones and Morgan Freeman, or are we way off on that?
No, you're absolutely 100% correct. The history of that project was I wrote the script several years ago with I have a writing partner on that one, Josh Posner. And we would give it to people and they would read it and they say, it's one of the funniest things I've read in a long time, but we're just not interested in making it, because of, various, it doesn't check various boxes, as if checking boxes is a guaranteed hit,
Right.
But no, the reason this happened was, Bob De Niro, I know very well from Midnight Run.
Oh,
and,
right.
We talk from time to time, and he called me out of the blue and he said, do you have anything funny? He says, because I just played a psychopath in The Irishman for 8 months and I've got to cleanse the palate, and I was like, yeah, I do. I have this really left-handed script. He goes, well, send it to me. So I sent it to him. He called me back a couple of days later. He goes, this is great. I'd love to do this. So, and then suddenly, boom, after years of, not being able to get it off the ground, we were shooting it within about 15 weeks after that.
Wow. I've never felt more satisfied in my life.
No, you're 100% right. And then Morgan Freeman, I already knew. So from another movie. So I called Morgan, and then Tommy Lee Jones. I think Bob had a major hand in talking to Tommy Lee Jones about it, but
Tommy Lee Jones, I'm a fan of, and I don't heap praise on him enough, but my son was just telling me he watched over the weekend No Country for Old Men, and I thought, God damn, I love that movie. And then I realized, you realize how good Tommy Lee Jones is when you watch that movie, right?
He's brilliant. It's a and that performance especially, it's just a very sort of internalized kind of performance, and it's what he's not saying. Yeah. And all the subtext is what makes it so interesting, that he kind of feels done and that he's finished and that, it's really, it's a terrific, it's really a great film. And every time it's on, I go, all right, I'm just going to watch 10 minutes and turn it off. Yeah. And then I start watching the whole thing. Well, I got to see this part. Then I got to see this part.
And then you forget that like Woody Harrelson's in the movie. Like, oh my God, he's so great.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then he says, do you validate? Doesn't he say something like that? Do you validate after he
something like that?
Yeah.
Well, he says, I was in your elevator. You're missing a 13th floor. It's even rude perfectly. Goes, we'll look into it.
Yes, correct.
And now, the brilliance of that movie, as I think about it, is Tommy Lee Jones's character is so internal monologue-y and sort of low key, and they hook him up with the young young deputy who's all id and he's all external and he's bopping around going, oh, the milk is still cold. It's when we just missed him. And Tommy Lee's just sitting there staring at his own reflection on the TV set. It's like such a great juxtaposition between the young buck and the old.
A great actor. He was on our show. I just can't remember. It's not Walton Goggins. It's
yes. I always want to say that. We got to look.
Looper. Yeah, I know. The guy's a great actor.
He said we should tell the like put it on the air something, and he goes looking for a man who recently drunk milk or something.
Right. Yeah. So we'll do 20 more minutes on No Country for Old Men, and then we'll
I'll talk about anything you want.
We'll briefly touch on the Comeback Trail, and then we'll wrap it up because that's the way we roll. So you get De Niro, and all of a sudden the dominoes start start falling. So the movie was shot. I just watched the trailer. It's very funny, and it's a kind of L.A. 1974, I believe, which is just a perfect L.A. era. And I'm so, I mean, I guess after watching Tarantino's film, Hollywood Stories. Was it Hollywood? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, it's so cool seeing Los Angeles, back in the day. But the movie got pushed. What's the kind of COVID deal on it?
Yeah, it's because of COVID. It was supposed to come out in October. Then they said Thanksgiving. Then they said Christmas. And now I don't know when it's coming out. Who knows? But whenever they find a cure for COVID. I don't know. It's supposed to be on 3,500 screens. It's a big release.
But it is flattering in that they don't want to just do VOD on it, right? They want it in theaters.
Yeah, it's definitely. I had just before all the shutdown started, I had the opportunity to see it once. You never really know because you make a comedy, you see it so many times, it's just not funny at some point to you. And because you just keep watching it. And so I did have the opportunity to see it in front of an audience, and they were hysterical. And so I figured, okay, it is funny. You know what I mean? So they want, I think the distributor sees it as a crowd pleaser. So, and I think hopefully after COVID, people want to go to the theater and laugh. I mean, the movie is funny. I mean, you know what the premise is about, right? It's
yes.
Yeah, they're trying to kill Tommy Lee Jones for the insurance money, and so anyway, and they can't kill him; he just keeps surviving.
As I think back, we're talking before you hopped on how much we love Midnight Run, and there was so much comedy in Midnight Run that people looked at it as, I don't know, buddy, thriller, action, whatever, road trip.
I think of it as a buddy comedy first.
Yeah.
But it just had, I guess we weren't used to seeing De Niro being as funny as he was in Midnight Run at that point. But that was a really funny movie.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah. No, I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
Just seeing it as a kid, like a little kid, the only other time I'd ever seen Charles Grodin was in The Muppet Caper. So that was my only background to some of these actors because I was so young when I saw it, and it stuck with us all these decades.
Yeah, I saw it late as an adult, maybe like 6 years ago, whatever whatever it was, and it was the perfect time to see it because all the jokes hit, and it was like I said, I think of it as a buddy comedy first. Of course, there's action elements and crime elements, et cetera. But the backbone of the movie, the way I would describe it to people and sell them on seeing it is it's funny. It's a funny movie.
Well, as I think about it, it had a lot of elements of one of my favorite movies when I was a kid, which is Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder in Silver Streak. It had a Silver Streak vibe to it.
Silver Streak's great. That's been on a lot too lately. I've been watching that, and Stir Crazy's been on. I've been doing the whole late 70s run, because those are the movies I love. I love The In-Laws. Remember with Peter Falk?
Sure.
Those are really the films I love watching.
Well,
Serpentine, Shelley, Serpentine.
So yeah, Serpentine. I was in the bush for a total of 9 months. Shelley, I saw tsetse flies the size of eagles. You can imagine as I stood in my hut as horror, as these enormous flies carried brown babies off to certain death. Natives had a name for them, Jose Grecos and Muertos, the flamenco dancers in death. What did you do about the flies? Unfortunately, there was very little I could do because they were covered under the provisions of the Guacamole Act of 1914. Obviously, I know The In-Laws. Yeah,
we should
should have said Serpentine.
Yeah. Right.
We should try to figure out Charles Grodin because I have this vague recollection of being interviewed by Charles Grodin once when he sat in for somebody. I think he sat in. Was there a Charles Grodin interview show on CNN?
There was.
In 2001 or something like that?
That sounds about right, yeah.
And I remember him interviewing me, and he was dismissive, and he made these sort of grunts okay, Adam, whatever. It was kind of funny, but it was also a bizarre way to conduct an interview. Is that who he is?
Yes, he has a big heart, shockingly, but yeah, I mean, he did something to me that it's still, like when you're a little kid and your parents do something kind of screwed up and, you're 65 years, I'm 64.
By the way,
only,
for my parents, it was getting married, but keep going.
Yeah. And like something like it'll resonate like 30, 40 years later. For some reason, it'll come up. He did something to me that every once in a while I still think about. And because I was going out to dinner all the time with the cast. I would go out with dinner with Bob. I'd go out with Yaphet Kotto. I'd go out with, the actors. And then I realized I'd never been out to dinner with Charles. So I said to Charles, and Chuck, I said, Chuck, hey, we're stuck in this town here, but you want to go out to dinner tonight? He just went, with you? No. No. And I was like, is he kidding? Is he in character? Is he it just kept going, no. And then he kind of smiled, and then he never said, I'm joking, which would be like the response that would follow that, right? You go, no, I'm effing around with you, but no, he never did. And I'm assuming he was, but anyway, that's my Charles Grodin story. But he was a very nice guy,
He had this show, Chris, you got to hop on the computer. It was like 95 to 98. So it was
the
even
Charles Grodin show on CNBC.
What a name for it.
Yeah. It's weird that someone with that temperament would have an interview show. It was kind of a Larry King type show. And I remember him just doing that same kind of deadpan thing with me, but he was like interviewing me. And I thought it was kind of funny, but I was also kind of curious. Like it was, they were filming us. Like what? What if they were filming you, George, when he said he didn't want to go out to dinner with you?
It broke my heart. Yeah, but,
right.
I was imagining him just now doing like a suicide prevention line. There'd be people jumping out windows.
Oh, there'd be people who were on the balcony urging the person not to jump, who then would volunteer to jump with them as well. Is there any way, does that clip exist of me on Charles Grodin from 1997 or whatever the hell it is? But now, this is going to sound horrible.
Go ahead.
I have no idea if Charles Grodin is still alive.
He's still alive.
Still alive.
Yeah, he was a few months ago. So unless something happened.
And an interesting guy. Like, how would you describe him as a performer? Not as a performer, but you'd go, he's a comedic actor, I guess. But I don't know if he wrote. I don't know all that is Charles Grodin. It was a very sort of. I'm sure everyone who taught him in high school was surprised that he went on to be a big comedic actor, right?
I don't know. I mean, he wrote a couple of books. I know that. Yeah, I mean,
according to Wikipedia, he studied under Uta Hagen, very famous acting teacher. So I wonder if and this would have been in the 50s and 60s. So I wonder if he was a method or was approaching acting from a very different avenue as a lot of people in his age.
I think he's look again. I think he's very he was at the time. I mean, very very serious about what he was doing, and he really thought about everything he was doing, and. Because we did end up having quite a few creative discussions, so he really did his homework as an actor.
Well, this is a kind of interesting subject, because I was just talking to someone recently where they said, I can't tell when you're kidding or not because you say everything in this very straight, deadpan way. And I'm like, well, of course I'm kidding. I'm saying something that's insane. And they're like, yeah, but the way you deliver it. And I was saying, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's how that's going. And I was thinking about this story we haven't talked about in a while. But when I took Teresa Strasser out and her fiance for dinner, my old news girl was getting married. So my wife and I said, well, we should take you guys out to celebrate your engagement. And we took them out to a nice restaurant. And when it came time to order, I said, of course I'm paying for the meal. It's my treat. We're taking you guys out. But understand my policy is that if you do get a doggy bag and order as much as you want and eat as much as you want, but as far as the food, it comes home with me because I'm paying for it and it'll prevent you from over ordering. Like you couldn't order a cheesecake and then just bring it home and eat it. So that's the policy. And with that in mind, enjoy. And I thought nothing of it until the next day when I got home and I said to my wife, I'm going to eat your pork chop for dinner. And she said, I already ate the pork chop for lunch. And I said, well, I'm staring at a pork chop in the refrigerator. So you didn't eat your pork chop for lunch. And of course, we realized that they both ordered a pork chop and the pork chop came home with me. And my wife's and Teresa Strasser's pork chop came home with me. And they took me deadly serious.
Oh, my God.
About taking everyone's leftovers home with me. And
I'll be honest with you. You delivered it so well that I believed it too.
I thought part of being a good comedic actor is delivering it with sincerity and in an earnest tone. So maybe Grodin was just doing that with you, ironically, about going out to dinner.
Very possibly, but we ended up never going out to dinner, so I don't know.
It's the long game.
Yes. Who knows? Who knows what's coming around the corner?
You're going to get a phone call right after this podcast airs from one Charles Grodin. That much I'm sure of. So the shoot. So you've worked with De Niro quite a bit, or enough. Has De Niro changed? Was there a young, sort of brash De Niro from Midnight Run, chip on his shoulder, tough guy De Niro, to a now older, more laid back De Niro? Or what's it like working with young De Niro and old De Niro?
I'll be honest, 100%. I didn't notice much of a difference, but he always. I heard that he could be tough on other people. He never was with me. We always just really got along, and I think, I was always coming from a good place about the work, and I think, I'm sure that in terms of a working relationship with somebody, he just wants to know that you really care about what you're doing. He doesn't. He was never like, if you made a mistake, if you screwed up or something, he's incredibly patient with that. I think if you didn't care or you weren't 100% on the ball with what you're doing, then I think he would react. But I really care about the work. So when we got along really famously, so I didn't see much of a difference. He's got literally has the energy of like 10 people. He would come on the set. He knew his lines. He knew Morgan's lines. He knew Tommy Lee Jones's lines. He was very polite. Like, do you mind if I move here when I say this? Do you mind if I'm thinking to myself, you're Robert De Niro. You can stand on your head. You can do whatever the hell you want. I'm just be happy to be making this movie with you, But he's very collaborative. We laughed a lot while we were making it. Really had a good time.
Tommy Lee, what's he like?
Very, very interesting. Very, very quiet, very internalized, wants to rehearse over and over and over and over again. To him, it's like precision. And for De Niro is completely like, I don't need to rehearse. Let's just jump in and see what happens. So it was quite different to be with an actor who just wanted to keep experimenting and a person who was very, very, I'm going to do this way, almost like I wouldn't say clinical, but certainly very studied. And he'd worked out everything that he was going to do, highly concentrated, so that was interesting trying to juggle that, but they knew each other's rhythms and they went with it,
I don't want to seem like a racist. So what was it like working with Morgan Freeman real quick?
Morgan's an old friend, so I've done 3 movies with Morgan.
Yeah, we got it, Gina.
And I'm about to do another movie with him.
I'm just being a dick. What movie are you doing with him in March?
I'm doing a movie called Muty. It's a thriller.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Morgan and I are just buddies, so like it's easy. If I have something and he's right for it, I just call him up and we go make the film together. I've been making these movies independently. It's a lot more fun than doing them at a studio where everything's committees and committees. I'm just done with that.
Well, Gina's got a question, but I got a quickie first that may have a longer answer. But I was doing a podcast earlier. I was talking to Justin Long, the actor, and we were talking about Matthew McConaughey, and we are trying to figure out, like, why do people love him so much? And we basically concluded that he's so comfortable in his own skin, and that all the greats, I guess when people talk about having it's a comfort level. It's like a sort of, they just seem so comfortable in their own skin. And Morgan Freeman seems insanely comfortable in his own skin. He just has that. And then the opposite is the person that's always tapping their foot and talking too loud and overcompensating and messing with their hair all the time or all their quirks. So he has that insane comfort level in his own skin. And would you say that, you work with a lot of actors, but you only work with a handful of like mega, actors, superstars. Does that seem to be a quality that you see in those guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Morgan, I have to say especially, Morgan is just calm, centered. He really is the guy he is in the movies. He's very, very funny. And yeah, he's a very centered individual, the first time, it's funny, like I did a movie with him a few years ago, and I'd never worked with him before. And, I woke up in the morning like you're supposed to be on the set at 6, and I'm thinking to myself at 4 a.m, like, how the hell am I going to direct Morgan Freeman? You're like, who am I to tell Morgan Freeman how to do so? You go through all those things in your head. We get to the set. He's just the nicest guy in the world. Where do you want me to stand? What do you want me to do? I said, well, I want you to stand by the window and blah, blah, blah. And first take, he just nails it. I mean, he's Morgan Freeman. And he turns around, he goes, when I say cut, he goes, anything else? And I was like, actually, no. And then he goes, you and me are going to get along just fine. And, after that, we've been, best buddies. So obviously, we're 4 films in a row together now.
Gina?
Well, my thought when you said, how different the styles are between Robert De Niro and Tommy Lee Jones at the time, I thought, well, who won out when they had scenes together? And that's something I'm curious about. But I also just wanted to mention those 3 actors in particular, Robert De Niro, Tommy Lee Jones, and Morgan Freeman. We've been watching a lot of Bugs Bunny here because we have a 5-year-old in the house, and so much stuff that's, for adults. It's we can't get enough. But you think about Mel Blanc, in a way, they're all sort of the acting equivalent of Mel Blanc, where they are the best at what they do. And for the most part, they do that thing. You know what I mean? Like they don't.
Of course.
It's magical to watch.
I am so happy that you know who Mel Blanc is.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, but me too.
I am wondering who won out in those, I want to rehearse all day. Let's just go.
In the end, we kind of just went. But Tommy and I would talk privately quite a bit about what we were going to do. And everyone was just very respectful of everyone else, But you couldn't ask for 3 guys more prepared. I mean, they'd just show up and they would just nail it. And I would just be like in awe. I'm like, wow, these guys are making me look great.
Is the independent route for you obviously much easier when you're having the kind of relationships with A-listers that you have? Much more difficult, I guess, if you're trying to kind of do things outside of the system and you don't have access to these people. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, of course it is. Look, I've been around long enough. I've been doing this forever. So I have so many relationships. It's nice that I can just pick up a phone and call talent and put together a film, which is what I've been doing the last 4 or 5 movies. That's how I've done them. And, I don't need a bunch of, people who don't know really how to make a film screwing it up. I could screw it up all by myself. I mean, if I'm going to make a mistake, I'd rather it be me that made it than I listened to somebody or got forced into a spot where I had it. You don't learn that way. every movie you make, hopefully you get better, and I've been blessed in that I just get to do them the way I want to do them, for better or for worse.
Well, couple thoughts. One is, what art form is better by committee? Could you imagine if George Carlin sat down with 19 people and vetted his jokes with them, or Picasso, or anyone who sat down to write a symphony, or what form of art works with a whole bunch of people in the room all weighing in? So what should be different about this, number one?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Adam, go ahead. Sorry.
No, address that, and then I'll tell you my second
Even
thought.
if you had 5 geniuses in a room, even if you had Picasso, Monet, John Constable and John Singer Sargent, you had 4 brilliant painters in a room, you're still not going to get a brilliant painting because they think so differently. So, so no. I mean, what did Jimmy Breslin say? He said if a committee gets together to build a perfect racehorse, they end up with a donkey.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And also that sort of, we want the young demographic, we want the old demographic, we want straight and gay. I always say, imagine if you're making a car and the edict is we have to be all things to all people. You end up with a Pontiac Aztec. You know what I mean? You can't make a car that's going to suit everybody, and I think that's the studio problem, is like, we want everybody to love this movie.
Yeah, that's an impossibility, especially with a comedy, because sometimes, some people will laugh at something, other people will be offended by it. I guess this Comeback Trail is somewhat offensive in that it's got more of a 70s sensibility. It's got more of a kind of a Mel Brooks vibe to it, because they're making a Western in the movie. And so it's got some of those 70s attitudes, towards people, I find funny, I'm from the 70s.
I will compliment you in that, ultimately the thing no one really teaches you about life is it's really all just about relationships. It's all about, does this person want to work with you again? And being on a movie set is a little bit of a pressure cooker, and it sometimes brings out the worst in people, because it's anyone can be awesome to go out on a sightseeing cruise on a boat and have some drinks. You know what I mean? Everyone's sort of at their best. But the set of a movie is, you're up against time, you're up against money. It kind of can bring out the worst. It's stressful in people. So the fact that all these people want to work with you over and over again is a testament to your, bedside manner and your affability and your creativity. They have to respect you. These people can work with whoever they want to work with. But let's talk about that relationship. The fact that these people call you or you call them, they pick up the phone, they want to do another project with you. Because I got to tell you, if you work with some bad director or bad producer or bad outfit or entity, which I have, you just go, fuck it. I'm not doing anything with those people ever again. Like, the first thing out of your mouth is, whatever it is they want to do, I don't want to do it with them.
Yeah. I didn't know you could curse on this show.
Go curse
Anything
away.
You want.
I flinched when you said F-bomb. Yeah, I don't know. What's the question exactly?
It's more of a ass-kissy compliment statement,
no,
really.
No, look,
Carry on.
Carry on.
No. It's, look, in the end, it's probably the wrong thing to say. Look, it's an interview, and I'm always honest in these interviews. It could even be the wrong thing to say, but I think, for like an investor to hear, you can't, what ends up driving you nuts when you're making a film is that you start thinking about too many other things during the process of making it, which is, Jesus, I hope this thing makes money. Jesus, I hope this. And oh my God, I hope that. And before you know it, you start driving yourself crazy. And if I've learned anything, I learned that, and this might even sound crazy in a way, but I believe it to be true. The movie you can rehearse it and make it and hope it to be whatever you want it to be. But in the end, it almost if it's going to be really good, it has to become almost a byproduct of you having a good time with some people. Because if you're having a miserable fucking time, you're going to make a miserable fucking movie.
Watch the language, George, but keep going.
Yeah, and it's going to end up on the screen. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have fun. So if we're having fun, it's not like there's 100 people on a set and suddenly, only they think it's funny. If you're having a good time and you're laughing and, hey, what do you think? And you turn it into this communal thing, it has to succeed. It has to work. But if you start getting into all those other thoughts, you're kind of dead. You get weighted down by them. So I've just eliminated all that from my thinking.
Well, let me give the movie a plug, although we don't have a hard release date. The Comeback Trail. We can see website, thecomebacktrail.com. You should go there and watch a very funny trailer. DeNiro and Tommy Lee Jones, Morgan Freeman, Emile Hirsch, and amongst a cavalcade of very interesting, recognizable celebrities. It'll be sometime in 2021. George, we hope when it hits the theaters, you'll come back on with us and we can talk it up again.
And we have a mutual friend, Nate. Our dear friend Nate,
Oh yeah, I make documentaries with Nate.
Yeah. He put us together. So Nate's a great guy. I love him.
I love Nate too, and I like working with Nate as well because he's real nuts and bolts guy. Well, he has a combination of strong creativity with a kind of homespun Montana, ice fishing kind of Americana sensibility, which is nice. They're not normally things you find under one roof in terms of a human being.
No, he's a good guy, and he really cares about what he's doing. My mother-in-law is from Montana, so anyway,
and you make documentaries as well, right?
Yes, I've made a few.
Well, maybe we'll collaborate on something.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
About the guitar in the background? What kind of guitar is that?
Oh, for me?
Yes.
Oh, we have a couple of cheap, we have a couple Fenders back here that we noodle around on. Nothing special.
I'm a guitar player, so I was just curious.
We have one lefty and one righty back there.
Okay, so one for Paul McCartney, one for John Lennon.
I'm Paul McCartney.
Are you okay? I'm left-handed, but I play righty.
I wasn't allowed to. My brother said we're lefties and we play lefties, so that's all I get to do.
Okay, well, I'm a lefty, and then my father taught me golf right-handed too. No, you'll never get a set of clubs. So.
Right.
Well, that was my question. Can you get a guitar? I mean, famously, Jimi Hendrix just took a right-handed guitar and just strung it different and played it left-handed because you couldn't get them. Well, I was left-handed when I was a kid, and I still am, and I'd go out and try to find a baseball mitt, and there were like 5,000 offerings for right-handers and 2 for left-handers. But there must be more now. Like you can get, when I started in carpentry, I couldn't get a left-handed circular saw. Now they have left-hand. They've somehow come around on left-handers. Is it?
Well, I think there's more of us.
There's more of us.
Sitting in high school desks was always fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. It was like twisting yourself into a pretzel just to try and find. That's why lefties always have lead.
Yeah, the ink and the lead.
That's right.
Next time I talk to a gay man and he tells me about the struggles of trying to be converted to heterosexuality, I'll go, I played Pop Warner football and had to be in a right-handed football stance, and I'm a lefty, so I feel your pain, bro.
We're simpatico.
I wouldn't say my situation is worse, but it could be argued.
Yeah.
George Gallo, The Comeback Trail, thank you very much for joining us, my friend.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
And come by the office. Say hi to Nate and look at some Paul Newman race cars.
I actually saw it. I saw the car. It's great, but I'll definitely come by.
All right, George, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Another notable death occurred over the weekend. Phil Spector. The music producer is credited for inventing the wall of sound method and who later was convicted of murder. He died at 81. California state prison officials say he died Saturday of natural causes at a hospital. He was convicted of murdering actress Lana Clarkson in 2003 at his castle-like mansion on the edge of LA. After a trial in 2009, he was sentenced to 19 years to life. Meanwhile, as a side note, the BBC News website has apologized for their headline reporting on Spector's death. It first initially said, talented but flawed producer Phil Spector dies at 81. Then they apologized and said that did not meet their editorial standards and changed it to pop producer jailed for murder dies at 81.
I saw the fallout from the several headlines that failed to capture the totality of his life. I tweeted this. I don't know if it's worth Chris being finds it or not, but I tweeted that this observation that I had that Phil Spector presents a really unique challenge for headline writers, especially. Like, how do you encapsulate this man's life in one sentence? At one time, he was one of the most influential figures in all of pop music history. On the other hand, he's a convicted murderer. Like, when it comes to OJ or Bill Cosby or any number of, infamous people who are going to pass away in the next few years, this is going to be another bridge to cross.
Yeah, I never did. I should ask Garrigus about that because, Phil, first off, brilliant guy, brought so much great music. And for anyone who loves George Harrison, like I do, really brought so much to the table, and so many other artists. But the murder thing always felt weird to me, and that he brought her home. He brought the gun out. He was showing off with the gun or something. But I don't think they ever nailed him as the trigger person. I don't think they proved that he put the gun in her mouth and shot her. I don't know.
I was under the impression he was convicted of murder.
He was.
If that's wrong, I take it back.
He was convicted. No, he was convicted of murder,
okay.
But I don't know that the evidence was there that he literally squeezed the trigger. And it seemed like the case was more nuanced. I was surprised that he got murder. I thought it would have been involuntary manslaughter or maybe even murder 2 or something. It also didn't seem premeditated at all. Like, he went out to Dan Tana's, ordered a Shirley cocktail, left a $600 tip or something insane. I mean, he literally ordered a drink at, I think it was Dan Tana's or someplace like that on Sunset Strip.
It had to be Dan Tana's.
He had to be at Dan Tana's, left a $500 or $600 tip on a, $11 bar tab, met this chick. I think she worked at House of Blues, or maybe he went down to House of Blues and then met her at House of Blues. He's a pervy old dude who picked up a hot young blonde, took her back to his estate, did what he did. He did a lot of gunplay stuff. He did a lot of showing off. There's a bunch of stories of him, in the studio with either George Harrison, I think John Lennon, maybe the Beatles, and pulling a gun out and waving it around. But he didn't meet her to take her home and kill her. I don't think they had any history or anything. He probably wanted to bang her back at his place, but he probably did that thing where he pulled the gun out and was showing off with the gun. But doesn't that get you down to manslaughter or something?
Well, let me address that because I'm looking at it right here. First of all, like you said, he told Esquire magazine in 2003 that Clarkson's death was an accidental suicide and that she, quote unquote, kissed the gun. So he, God knows what kind of weird shit he was doing there. But it does say Spector was tried for murder of Clarkson in 2007. That was declared a mistrial due to a hung jury. And he was tried again for second-degree murder in 2008, and that's what they got him on. So like you said, second-degree murder.
I wonder if he pulled the trigger. I guess he
did. It was Dan Tana's, and it was a $500 tip on a $55 tab.
Well, the waitresses all must have collectively shed a tear when he was incarcerated, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the
Quite
quote.
generous.
Where to go? Dan Tana himself. Yeah, he was always very generous with the help, unquote, said Dan Tana.
Yeah, well, I'd say tipping 7,000%. Not too shabby. Did he then go to House of Blues and meet her, or did she work at House of Blues?
She worked at a part-time House of Blues.
And did she meet him at Dan Tana's? Anyway, it didn't seem very premeditated, but I think I kind of get the feeling with Phil that there were so many stories of him waving around a gun where nobody got hurt, but he'd fire it into the ceiling of the recording studio or threaten somebody, but it was just all these kind of tales from the past. I felt like this was a little payback. Like, you cannot spend your entire career waving a gun around, and now you need second degree versus manslaughter or whatever.
Right.
Yes.
Chris might have found the same story I found, but according to the story that ran in the LA Times and Chicago Tribune, Spector is known to have visited the House of Blues, the Sunset Strip Club where Clarkson worked as a hostess. Employees saw her leave with him in a chauffeur-driven black Mercedes S430. So nice. When her shift ended at about 2:30 a.m. But it is not clear whether Spector had been at the club early in the evening when 3 metal bands were playing. So he was there. She left the club with him, unclear if he had been there.
He must have hated metal bands. Their arrangements and productions.
I doubt that was his speed. Yeah.
All right. Well, he'll be missed.
By some, yeah.
By some.
So let's move on to Twitter Corner. Have a couple of Twitter stories. So Alec Baldwin is taking himself off Twitter, according to CNN. He announced that he's out Monday in the wake of the uproar over his wife's claim of having Spanish heritage. The tweet says, "Twitter's like a party where everyone is screaming. Not much of a party. Goodbye for now." So just to reset, Hilaria Baldwin, aka Hillary Hayward Thomas, I believe, faced backlash after an online social media began accusing her of faking a Spanish accent and questioning where she was born. She's, not born on the island of Majorca, but in Boston. Videos of her speaking with an accent appeared on social media. People who claim to have attended high school with her also posted to dispute her claim. Baldwin has defended her, saying, "There's things that have been said lately about people I love that I care deeply about, which are ridiculous. I'm just ridiculous." But remember, she is the one that was on, I don't know if it was the Today Show, where she's doing a cooking segment and can't remember the English word for cucumber.
How you say?
Yes, how you say cucumber, right?
He's over
or just
it.
how you say.
No, how do you say it in English?
In English,
You
right.
know what Baldwin said to everyone?
Quiet.
Yep. Now he's going to be quiet on Twitter. How's he going to know when to phone into the show if he's off Twitter, though, Max Pata?
Yeah, we're going to have to figure that one out.
His burner accounts.
That's right. All right. What else we got, Gina?
I love him for standing by his woman, and I'm not being sarcastic. I think that is a true love story, the way he has come to her aid.
Well, wait. Does he speak Spanish? I mean, can they communicate?
That's a good question. I mean, the language of love.
All right.
Yeah. Another Twitter story, actress Christy Swanson wants to be canceled, and she wants to be canceled to support President Trump. So let me explain this.
She accomplished that 25 years ago.
Well, she wants to get in the time machine and be canceled. Let me explain. Last week, fans called for Trump to be digitally removed from Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And over the weekend, she tweeted, because she was
Wait,
Buffy
who
the
won?
Vampire.
We want
People
Trump
want
to be digitally removed.
Trump taken out of Home Alone 2.
Wow.
Over the weekend, yeah.
This is scary and kind of Orwellian. Like, tearing down statues is one thing.
Right.
But that's
Digitally.
Physical, but digitally removed. Ooh, that's interesting.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. The statue thing is like you're honoring this racist or whatever, but like he was in a movie. Like, what's the next? We're taking OJ out of Naked Gun? No, you can't take Nordberg out of Naked Gun.
Nordberg. So she's kind of calling the bluff in some ways, says if cancel culture is really going to have Donald Trump removed from the John Hughes movie, then in support of my president, I'd like to have myself officially removed from the John Hughes films Pretty in Pink and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, if you don't remember, Pretty in Pink, she's at the very end. I think she's credited as like Miss Ducky, because she's the one that John Cryer sees at the end, and like she gives him a little wave and then the credits roll. In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I think she's the one that does the speech about where Ferris is. Like, my sister's boyfriend's cousins, saw him faint at 31 Flavors. I heard it's pretty serious. That's Christy Swanson.
Oh, really?
So she wants both of those clips removed. Of course, Twitter is just beating the shit out of her for this. You were in that. Who are you? Who cares? But, she makes a point.
She kept her Mustang in my warehouse for 6 months. I had
Where you are right now?
no. I have multiple warehouses.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. I wish I could remember the street name and the address, but there's
You're
so
the Trump
many.
of Glendale with all that real estate.
Yeah, I don't know how it got to me, but
Carolla Tower.
she's needed a place to keep her Mustang. I had no idea how hardcore she was. She is hard goddamn core, man.
Her Twitter bio is like I'm not quoting, but it's like proud mom, God first, very religious. I only know her secondhand. My dear friend Lindsay Parker, who was in the movie Flowers in the Attic with her when they were, when she was a baby. I mean, how old is that movie? Remember, from the mid 80s?
Mm-hmm.
She worked with Christy Swanson, who played her sister, and said she was lovely.
Yeah, she was nice to me. But usually when people are asking for you to store their classic car for 9 months for free, they're not super bitchy when they drop it off.
They don't go full Grodin on you.
Yeah.
No.
Soft sell.
Does any of Grodin's clips exist on the internet and him on that TV show?
I think there's one of him interviewing Letterman, but we're trying to find yours. Gio's looking now. He was on the road when I
Even
called him.
Letterman would be interesting just to see his style, which is
Oh my
bizarre.
God. Can you imagine the pulse rate on that interview?
Yes.
Yeah, two very sarcastic, dry.
What'd you have? Sorry, Brian.
I was going to say, do you envision, or maybe this is a bit of a made-up movie, or perhaps we're living in this made-up movie. Is there a world where, because the joke now is, between Scott Baio and, Kevin Sorbo and Christy Swanson, and these actors and actresses have seen better days, the ones who maybe support, but when I say better days, they were more popular in another era, yet they support, President Trump very loudly, and they're in the public eye as a result of it. Is there a sort of world where someone who just doesn't give a shit about politics embraces, the MAGA lifestyle just to get, an actor who has not been in the public eye for many decades, just to get back in? You know what I mean? Just to be discussed.
Very Black Mirror and interesting, yeah.
And it's also a bit of a made-up movie, Simpsons episode. You know what I mean? Like, James Woods, love that guy. I enjoy him as an actor very much, but his best days are clearly behind him as an actor.
Well, I guess at a certain point, if this is your, so if your wish is to be recognized and heard and discussed and in sort of the public eye, at a certain point when it comes to Trump, or most, also probably a lot of just general right-wing, as far as like a hard right stance on subjects, if the conceit is, if you want to operate in Hollywood and you take a hard right stance or a Trump stance, and it's definitely going to damage your career, then you have to figure out, I guess, where your career is. And then there's a kind of provided this is what you're thinking. I mean, obviously, it could just all be authentic. They could just love Trump or be hard
That's
right
more likely, of course.
or whatever it is. But if there was this person, this actor, and you're thinking, I got to be photographed wearing the MAGA hat, I got to go to the rally and blah, 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 then you wouldn't definitely do it when your career was going gangbusters, because you're going to pull the carpet out from under yourself. And you wouldn't do it if it was going okay and you were still struggling and working and trying to get jobs and had some irons in the fire. You would do it when there was nothing going on and now your choice is zero versus showing up on Sean Hannity 5 times a year and being destroyed on Twitter. So if you're cynical, I guess you could go, well, that's where those people were. But different versions of it feel more sincere. Like Kevin Sorbo feels, or like Dean Cain. Dean Cain feels wildly authentic to me.
I agree.
But there's probably a few out there that are sort of, it's sort of like the serial killer who wishes he made the newspaper for being in a successful rock and roll band, but he's still going to be goddamned if he's not in that newspaper.
They're going to know my
Manson.
name.
That's Charles Manson.
We got
that's Manson.
Right. We got Charles Grodin back and forth with Don Rickles from the Charles Grodin talk show.
I'm already uncomfortable.
I've never even brought up doing the Charles Grodin show, right?
I didn't know that. No, never.
A bizarre old memory from 1997 for me. All right, let's see.
Joining me now is comedian Don Rickles. He will be at Carnegie Hall in New York City on June 12th. He is in our Burbank studio. You will be at Carnegie Hall. Are you going to see someone? I mean, what are you going to be doing at Carnegie Hall? I mean, as part of an introduction to say we're some, I guess you'll be at the Carnegie Delicatessen as well. Is that right?
I had thought it would be, hi, Don, how are you?
Oh.
I mean,
well, you know,
how's your family? Or, gee, it's nice of you to be on the show.
Well, you know, let me start with that.
I had no idea you were going to hit me with Carnegie Deli.
No, wait a minute. You're absolutely right. Let me begin again.
You're a big star now.
How is your family?
Not well. My uncle was hit by a truck, and my mother's very ill. But don't you worry about it.
Is that right?
You just have a good show.
You know, well, one of the things that I noticed in the longer intro of you, we worked on this intro to cut it down because I wanted time for us to talk. It said that you're a paid spokesperson for this Toyota Comedy Festival. Would you be a spokesperson? No, for the Comedy Channel. Is that right?
No, for the Comedy Channel, Chuck. You got it right. First of all, let me just say it's nice.
Oh, this is a great comedy.
Is there more to this?
Yeah. Sorry, we were supposed to cut it earlier than that.
Oh, okay. Well, you see his super dry, kind of weird, like where he would go, you know, Adam Carolla, they say you're a comedian, but I haven't seen your show. Like that was his style.
Right.
And
he was Jiminy Glick without the wink.
Yes.
Right.
Now you can't take it personally.
A super dry Jiminy Glick. But by the way, Letterman would do the same thing. He would do like, they tell me you do a late night show. I mean, I did, the second time I did Letterman, I literally called him out on it. Like he did I haven't seen the show and I don't know what this other thing is. And I was like, I called him out on it. I was like, don't you have producers or segment producers or some version of that? But it's like, he would do that. I don't know what you do. Kind of, I mean, he wouldn't say, I don't know what you do. He'd say, you're on a show that I've never seen. Basically.
Is he playfully big timing you, or you think there's?
I think it was a bit of a shtick, right?
Yeah.
Because Letterman did that a lot in his early days. Well, maybe he did it the whole way through. I don't know, but when I watched him, he would do it a lot.
Yeah, it was the same kind of thing. If you can find any more Grodin, it's going to make me laugh because evidently I wasn't the only person that felt that way. Because in real time, when you're being interviewed, you're like, why is this person being a douche to me when? Maybe we'll find it, but yes, him talking to. Well, how about him and Letterman?
I thought it was because if you Google Charles Grodin, it says Charles Grodin interviews David Letterman. So I thought
it was
Letterman
on
was
Letterman,
it was on
right?
Letterman, yeah.
All right. Well, if you can find another one, it's going to make me laugh. Let me hit Tommy John here. Men love Tommy John because they keep everything in place. Women love them because they make men look good when they're keeping everything in place. 2021, make everyone happy. Trade in those cheap underwear that slide down and ride up for some Tommy John. Once you've tried Tommy John's, you're never going back. Tommy John doesn't have customers. They have fanatics. Yes, I'm wearing mine right now. I always wear them. They're great when you travel. They're lightweight. You can roll them up. They take up no room in your suitcase. They have dozens of comfort innovations, breathable, lightweight, moisture-wicking fabric, 4 times the stretch of competing brands, moves with you, no rolling down, waistbands, the legs never ride up. It's just the best. You will be a convert the second you try Tommy John. It's the best pair you'll ever wear, or it's free. Guaranteed. It's Tommy John, right, Dawson?
Go to TommyJohn.com/Adam and save 15% on your first order. Go right now. Save 15% right now at TommyJohn.com/Adam. That's TommyJohn.com/Adam to save 15% on your first order. See site for details.
Grodin, man. That guy
That's
was
fun. That's funny.
He's funny, right? But I don't know.
Do you guys remember, and I'm going in the Wayback Machine for this. This is, again, another baby Gina childhood movie that I loved throughout the mid-'80s. Do you remember Charles Grodin and Lily Tomlin in The Incredible Shrinking Woman?
Yes.
You've seen it, I imagine.
never saw it.
It might have been the only movie playing in North Hollywood in 1982.
I'm trying to think if I probably did see it. That was one. There was remember all those 80s house movies where like Jim Belushi's The Pool Man for a Rich Guy and the French door's left open. So he stumbles in and then
Opportunity knocks with
right.
David Carvey.
And then the phone rings and he picks up the phone and they're like, the Hanson deal's in full effect. We need you down here right now. And then he finds the guy's wallet and the next thing you know, he's living in his house and he's fucking his wife and the other guy's out on the street. Like they used to do a lot of that. Like once you get into someone's house, you're in it, man.
You live there. That's your life.
Yeah, Belushi did the same thing in Curly Sue.
There was, I think Grodin and Belushi starred in one of those movies where he took over that guy's life. It seems, it seems hard to sustain for 100 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
Turns out it is.
It's some. Yes, it is. You're right.
They're not good movies.
They're absolutely right. If you could find the movie poster for Charles Grodin, Jim Belushi movie, it'll probably make us all laugh. All right, what else we got, Gina Grad? Jerry Springer's coming on tomorrow, by the way.
All right.
Very excited about that. He hasn't been on a long time. Remember his harrowing story about the Holocaust?
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible. I still remember it. I get chills. I just got a breaking news alert. I will read it to you right now. Breaking another Dodgers legend lost. MLB legend Don Sutton, dead at 75, passed away in his sleep. Not sure if you're familiar with him or his career.
Don Sutton had one of the few blonde perms.
That's what he's remembered for.
That's what I remember him for. Dodger great with the blonde perm. He had a blonde perm. And most of the blonde guys never went with the perm because they're like, fuck it, I got blonde hair. I don't got to do anything. I'll just let it hang down. It was always the Brady boys that were going with the perm. But Don Sutton, in his pitching prime, had a perm. He was only 72? 75? Yeah. Young, because it seemed like he pitched for the Dodgers so goddamn long ago. He was,
perm, I think.
Yeah, he was a Dodger great. No doubt about it. So if you're Oral Hershiser, you better be worried because this shit happens at threes, right?
Fernando Valenzuela's quaking in his boots.
He's probably he's probably got a few comorbidities, if I know Fernando.
I remember the mid to late 80s, because of soccer, all the boys who had mullets in Kansas got the back of their hair permed.
Oh, boy.
Remember that?
No.
Or that was just a Kansas thing?
We grew up in civilization.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Sticks,
woo!
Ooh, boy.
Wow.
We can afford barbers.
Yeah.
Oh, we could afford formaldehyde and whatever else goes into a perm.
Yeah, you can find a picture of him with a full blonde perm. He's quite a perm. And Fernando Valenzuela famously, when he pitched, would roll his eyes up and look at the bill of his cap and just roll it. That's just what he did.
That was his thing. When he would, in his wind up, he would like look towards heaven. But I don't know what that was.
That is crazy, right?
Who's more superstitious than baseball players?
I know. It's insane that was part of his technique to roll his eyes. Maybe he was super judgmental and condescending in his native.
Oh, this fucking batter.
Yeah. Ugh. I don't know why I bother pitching this guy, but okay.
They're going to make me throw the ball.
Yeah.
They just call him out now.
Has anyone in the history of pitching ever done that? I mean, he was wildly successful. There was Fernando Mania and everything in Los Angeles, but he rolled his eyes all the way up when he.
I'm not familiar with another player.
Right before he threw the ball. Don Sutton. He shall. He didn't. I guess at the time he would do some like local car dealership commercials, and he probably got up into the booth at some point.
He did broadcasting, right?
Yeah.
Wait, did he do the Braves games on TNT or TBS? Or am I fucking totally insane?
I don't know. I don't know enough about baseball, but I definitely remember Don Sutton. But again, it was his blonde perm that I remember the most.
Brian's right about the Braves.
Well, that's like you.
The Braves, yes.
Yeah,
It's
for
like
a
you
year,
said
because
about-
the Braves were televised nationally on TBS. It was Atlanta, it was Ted Turner, all that.
Right.
And he did the Braves. I always associate him with the Braves. He's a Dodger legend. I always associate him with the Braves as a kid.
It's like you said about porn stars doing real estate. All athletes go to used car sales,
Yes.
car dealerships.
Yeah, they do that when they're playing and sometimes right after they're playing as well. All right, Gina, let's bring it home.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Well, speaking of cars, let me hit Geico. Do you own your home? Do you rent your home? You want to make it easy to bundle those policies with your automotive policy? Go to Geico and get your bundle on, man. Take that renter's or homeowner's policy and bundle it with your automotive. Go to geico.com, get a quote, see just how much you could be saving, and just see how easy it is. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com. Do that today. That's geico.com. Get your bundle going at geico.com. Let's see. Oklahoma City, Bricktown Comedy Club, February 26th, 27th, doing live podcasts and stand-up there. Kansas City, Arvest Bank Theater, March 25th, and then just doing stand-up there, and then off to Royal Oak Music Theater, March 26th, doing stand-up there. So you can go to adamcarolla.com for all the live shows. And Naples, you guys were a great audience over the weekend, so thanks for that. You guys were a lot of fun. Springer coming in tomorrow. Let me find my rundown. I got to thank everybody here.
He's been a great guest in the past. He's always had great stories, compelling. I love George Springer.
Yeah,
Actually, he filled in for Adam, I think, last time
That's
he was on, so Adam wasn't there for that.
Yeah, he's great. So we look forward to that. And until next time, Sam Carolla for George Gallo and Gina Grad and Baldwin saying mahalo.